Welcome to the Wealth Matters podcast, where investors come together to better understand how to build passive cash flow and create generational wealth without all the confusing mumbo-jumbo. Here's your host and co-author of Amazon #1 bestseller, Alpesh Pamar.
Welcome to Wealth Matters podcast. I am going to talk to someone who has been an engineer like me, but of course in a different field like mechanical to civil engineering, and have become a full-time real estate investor. Her name is Deepareddy Akula. And of course, she's from India, so we may talk about some stuff what we have done back home. But she's a real estate investor and multifamily syndicator based out of Seattle, Washington, and she moved from being a head of engineering to full-time real estate investor. So we want to know how she did it, and if she can share some golden nuggets with all of us, and we can also pretty much follow the path she has followed. So welcome, Deepa.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Alpesh. It's an honor.
Absolutely. Thank you. So first question I ask every guest that tell us something interesting or funny about yourself.
Okay, so here goes. I'm an avid reader. So I read, I average about 6 to 8 books a month.
Oh, wow. That's a lot.
You know,
Because I'm
so
like
here it
one
goes.
book a month and I thought I'm doing good.
So here it goes. It keeps on going. So to keep it interesting and not to neglect any parts of my life, I have 4 different categories. My first category, the first book would be like general business development. The second would be real estate specific. The third is self-improvement.
Right.
And the fourth is parenting. Because kids don't come with any kind of handbook. So once I read all of this, I kind of recycle. But once I get through each category, I watch a series on Curiosity Stream, which is a Netflix for nerds. It's totally about documentaries and everything. So that's just something interesting. 4 books, a series on Netflix for nerds, which is Curiosity Stream, and the kind of shows I watch is Fibonacci sequence in nature and history of numbers kind of thing.
Wow. Okay.
And then go back to book 1. So yeah.
Oh, that's crazy.
It is. And I also think it's funny. So
no,
yeah.
It is. It is. So yes, you read all this book and even watch Curiosity Stream. Then why did you choose real estate?
Great question. So 2 things: freedom of time and also tax benefits.
Nice.
Those were my 2 biggest reasons to start investing in real estate.
So what was your very first real estate investment and how did it work out for you?
So the very first one was a very, very small investment. I kind of started out by lending some money to a friend for a house flip. And it came back to me within a few months because flippers only hold it for a few months. And it came, it's a short term. And then I'll have to wait another deal. And so that kind of got me started. Then the next investment was I got into syndications right after that. And it turned out pretty good. Yeah.
Okay. So you didn't take the normal route like how I did and most of my guests do, that they start with one single family rental, they buy another one, then buy a small multifamily, and then end up with syndication. So you pretty much just landed money and then moved into syndication.
Yes, the smallest syndication I've worked on so far or invested in so far is a 76 unit. That was my very first one, and the biggest one is about 336 units. So yeah, I skipped the regular route.
That's pretty cool. So do you still have a full-time job or did you retire?
I do not have a full-time job. I was laid off. The whole department was laid off. The whole engineering department was laid off during the pandemic.
Oh, okay. Sorry to hear that.
But that was one of the best things that happened to me in retrospect.
It's always blessing in disguise.
Yes. It did take me I was head of engineering, is managing the whole engineering department, and I had people that would report to me. The worst thing about the layoff is losing the people.
Hmm.
And it took me 2 days to get over my job. I loved it. It doesn't, I make it sound like it took me 2 days to get over the job, but I was like totally in the dumps in those 2 days. But I
Yes.
loved my job. I really did. So yeah,
Yeah,
now I
no,
do
so
this
I
full time.
no, that's great. And I have the exact same story, right? So 2009, right when the recession started and we are expecting our first child, and I got laid off.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
and then both of us were not working by that time. So it was a struggle for a month, but knock on wood, again, a blessing in disguise, because I started my own consulting firm, IT consulting.
Right.
I learned the ropes of consulting, and I had decided I will never do W2 again, and I have not. So yeah, it just works out, huh?
Right, right. And because the job market was so good, I received multiple job offers.
Yes.
And then, being laid off is such a helpless position. I was like, I don't think I want to be in that position again. And by that time, I was a GP in 400 units already, and I
Oh,
was
nice.
invested as an LP in about 800. So I just made the decision to stick with the CRE full time.
Oh, okay. So that was going to be my next question, actually. So you have are receiving all the full-time offers. So what was the catalyst behind just moving full-time into real estate? Like, you don't want to deal with this head of engineering and whatnot.
You know, um, I don't know if I would have pulled the trigger on leaving my job if I was not laid off because I
Right.
was having a blast. I
Exactly.
was face of the department. I was the person traveling all over the country, talking to other engineers, talking about our product. I was designing glue laminated wood poles of all things.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, so I would just go talk to utility engineers, and I even traveled a bunch in Canada. So I really did love my job. And once they made the decision for me, it was so much easier
Yes.
to just make the switch. And I would have eventually done it, but I gained all this time because they pulled the plug.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you mentioned this, right? So a lot of us they are so comfortable in our jobs and businesses and all, unless we really get kicked in the back, right? We don't take that decision, right? It's very hard. And
Yes.
yeah, I have a couple of friends. I worked for SAP as a software engineer, then Price Waterhouse Coopers, where I got laid off, right?
Oh,
So I still have friends at SAP and PwC, and they still keep asking me. They want to now leave the job. This was they asked me 10 years ago, 5 years ago, and they are still at the same position. And I'm
right.
like, we become so comfortable, and have a lot of ideas. Everyone has a lot of ideas, but it's hard to leave that comfort and then get out and do something on your own, right? Um,
That's true.
so I'm glad that you mentioned. So you were you before you got laid off, or before you even decided that you don't want to do this full time anymore, did you set up a plan to move into full time into real estate?
I did. I did have a goal, and it was going to be sometime this year in 2022. And I was shooting for maybe June 2022. We're not even there yet.
Right.
And I had a transition plan too at work because I was the only person with the professional engineering license at work for the whole engineering department.
Right.
So I couldn't just like up and leave without a
Correct.
transition. And that
Correct.
department was my baby. I've been working for 7 years on it.
Right.
So there was a transition plan there as well. And uh, it happened. So
Yeah, no, that's pretty interesting. So what was your plan? Like, just a transition plan from work side, but on personal side and the finance side, had you planned anything? Have you thought about, like, I got to have this number in mind, maybe number of
oh,
units on the income, or because all of us have some kind of numbers in our mind,
yes.
right?
Yes, yes. No, thank you so much for asking that question. I did have a plan. So me and my husband just sat down and talked about, the money we make, from jobs. We don't really, if you're a high wage earner, if you make 100 or 200,000 per year, we don't really need that much if your expenses are not even close to that.
Right.
You could live in 60, $70,000 a year and live a good life. So we were thinking, we were like, the first thing was, oh, maybe we should replace our income with
Right.
passive income. And then that's completely arbitrary, right? Like,
Right.
then we were like, okay, you know what? Let's come up with a number to see
Yes.
how much we spend every year, and let's add a little bit more as cushion,
Yeah.
account for inflation and everything.
Yeah.
And
And
when we hit
vacation,
that
whatnot.
number,
Yeah.
yes, we are big vacationers, and we love to travel. So we just added all of that in there, came up with the number, and that was our number. So I was working towards that number. When I was laid off, I haven't hit that number in passive investments.
Right.
Sorry, passive income, but that was a thought process.
Oh, that's great. I'm glad that you shared. Um, how long have you been investing in real estate, and by what? How many units you mentioned by that time when you got laid off?
So I had been investing only for a couple of years.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's
Yes.
fast.
So 2019 is when I put my first penny in it in syndications, but I had been researching for a few years before then.
Okay.
So this I got the syndication bug in 2016, and I got analysis paralysis. So I had to learn everything and how to underwrite before I invest as an LP. That's way too much, by the way, to people out there
Yes.
listening. That's not good. But that's what I did. But once we started investing in 2019, we kind of scaled really fast, and we invested in multiple syndications. And by the time I was laid off, I had invested in about 800 units as a LP, and I was a GP in about 400 by then.
Nice. And so did you sign up with any courses like Michael Blank to Rod Cliff or Joe Fairless, or were you part of one of those, or any of those kind of mastermind?
No, no. So none of the one, but I'm mostly self-taught
Okay.
for the most part.
So you're like
And
me.
I did join a group that's not in existence anymore. I was
Ah.
a beta tester, so we were like guinea pigs. So Elisa Zhang had Easy FIU, Elisa
Okay.
Zhang Financial Independence University, and she's stopped it for a little bit now. I don't know what the plan is going forward, but I was one of the initial members who was part of it, and she would put videos out, and we not only just learn, but we would provide feedback. We were guinea
Ah,
pigs
okay.
to build that. But I did that for a few months, and because all the books I read too
Right.
kind of accelerates learning. So.
So now you started in 2019. Can you share some of the lessons you have learned so far?
Yes, yes, definitely. So started investing in 2019, right before the pandemic.
Yeah.
And so the lessons I've learned from the very first deal is always investing with the sponsor group. We definitely want to look to see if that particular group, those particular individuals together, have worked together in the past on different
Right.
projects, because you never know how they get along. A group of people will get together and say, hey, let's take this down,
Right. Yeah.
and until they work together, you have
Correct.
no idea. Like it could be you and I too, Alpesh. Let's say,
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah.
let's work together, and until we actually are sitting down for a PM call, we don't know how we
That's
work
a
together.
that's a great point, and I see the value in it. It's very
So
important. So because everyone can do one deal together, right, and be done with it, right? But if
yes,
if they gel well together, and if they are doing
right,
multiple deals together, then yeah,
right,
then
right.
it's a true partnership.
Yes, yes, yes. You want to see if the group has done multiple deals together, and if somebody is coming back as a repeat investor, or the same group is taking up more projects, that means they like each other, and we want that all the GPs to be friends and get along for the property to move smoothly.
Oh, that's a great lesson. So that's lesson number one.
Yes, definitely. And we also want to, this is something that I am very passionate about, and I learned from talking to my very first sponsor is, if we ask questions about, as an LP, not as a GP, as an LP, I ask about, hey, tell me about one of the projects that you're working on or worked on that did not go as planned,
Right.
and how did you handle it? And if somebody is like, oh, we never had that happen, then that person has
Yeah.
not been doing enough or is not
Correct.
telling you.
Yeah.
So, it could be a small dip. All good properties, well, all properties go through, some kind of a change in plan, a shift
Yeah.
in plan. And it does not really have to be bad, but when bad things happen, how did they handle is what you want to know.
Right. Yeah. That is very important because unless they haven't done it since 2005, because
Yes, yes,
otherwise they would have got hit in the head,
right, right,
or they are not telling you the truth. Even
right.
someone like Will Smith, we call it as golden hand, right? With the singing to everything, he also messes it up, right?
That's true. That's true. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, his golden hands are no more golden anymore.
Just one thing. It takes only one thing to
Exactly,
take everything
right?
away, right? Yeah.
Yep, yep. So, when you are syndicating, are you working with your specific then GPs, or you are also partnering with a lot of different GPs?
So great question. Thank you for asking that. So I started as an LP. And the way even now, how I vet my partners or potential partners is I invest my own money.
Hmm.
So I
Yep,
invest the family money, me and my husband's, and see how they treat me as an LP. And if I want to bring my LPs to that group. So far, I've only invested with groups that I invested my money with, and I only work with two groups. And I'm vetting other groups by investing my own money, but I haven't raised any capital or worked with them yet.
that's great. That's exactly what I do. I first dip my toes using my own capital, which I don't mind losing, right?
Right,
I don't
right.
want anyone else to lose capital.
That's true. I mean, ideally, we don't want to lose
Right.
anybody's
No,
money.
no
If
one's money.
Yeah,
But it's at least if it's my money, I know.
yes, we can sleep at night.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes,
Not with someone else's money.
it's true, true.
Yeah. And I think that comes from the cultural.
I agree. I agree.
Right.
The conservativeness also, I mean, both being engineers, as
Yes.
engineers, we are super conservative, and also
Yep.
the culture is super conservative. So
Yep. The
yeah,
numbers and everything. So,
right.
which real estate markets are you focusing on and why?
So I am in Texas, Florida, and Arizona,
All
and
three hot markets.
hot markets,
Very-
and they're hot because of
Literally.
population. Yes,
Literally.
literally and figuratively, yes,
Yes.
all three are hot markets. So job growth, population growth,
Yes.
and just the number of employers going to those states.
Migration pattern.
Right,
Yeah, all that.
right,
Yep.
right. For those reasons.
So, yeah, I'm going to talk to you about now the real estate deals you have done. So, can you share your best real estate deal so far?
Sure. Okay, I'm going to stick with the same deal because it went full cycle. And I'm just going to show the audience how the best deal can also sometimes be the worst deal, but we just got to stick with until the end. So this deal that I invested in was a 76 unit, the very first syndication that I was ever part of. I was an LP, and COVID hit. We were still getting distributions, not as much, not the preferred whatever the preferred return was, but we were still getting returns. And once it was sold, because it was in Arizona, it was in the right time in the right place,
Yes.
and the GP group got an offer that they couldn't refuse, and they sold it. And my initial investment of 50,000 came back as 115,000
Oh,
check,
wow.
and
That's nice.
that's excluding the 8,000
The
cash flow.
Wow,
So
that's good one.
so return wise, as an LP, what can be best than, like,
Right.
it's one of the best
Yeah,
deals.
you can't go wrong. Yeah, no, I agree.
Right, right.
So, is that your worst real estate deal as well, or was there anything else?
No, that is the one. That is the one too. I want to talk about, like, um nothing bad happened on it, but like I said, the GP group, that was the very first time they were working together, these particular people that came together,
Hmm.
and in the midst of it, they figured out it was not a good fit.
Ah,
And somebody had to step up and learn how to asset manage from
wow, that's
scratch.
interesting.
So it's all perspective and context. So when we were going through that, and the GP group was really good, they kept it very, very, very transparent. They were telling all the LPs what was going on, and they were like, we have a plan, and this is what's going on. we're going through it, we're like, oh my goodness, they are learning on our dime. uh,
Yes,
they're learning how to asset manage on our dime. So
that's scary.
right when this was happening, that kind of felt like it was the worst deal. But once we got like this big check, that turned into a best deal. So
Wow, that's really a great analogy, right? I love it how someone else had to step up, right, and learn
right,
the ropes. But
right.
on the flip side, when things are going smoother, no one cares, right?
I agree.
When you see there is a problem, that's when there'll be a blame game, finger pointing, and some.
Right, right. What was even better about that particular GP group is that they were like, they didn't change any of the equity split between them. They were like, you know what, it's okay. Internally, whatever is going on, that's fine. The big picture is the property and LPs. We take care of them. If I'll have to do extra work, that's fine. And if
Right,
the other person's getting paid for the work that they're not doing, that's fine too. Big
right.
picture is like,
Yes.
we need to protect LP money and then provide a good return.
Yeah, and if you
So
take care of these investors, they will come back to invest with you,
yes,
right?
yes, and
So
we did. I
yeah,
did go back
no,
to invest.
that's the
So
key.
right.
So what are you seeing in the market now, right now? As we all know, real estate has been on a tear, stock market, everything else. So are you being really conservative right now? And with interest rates rising, how are you underwriting your deals?
We are very conservative, and we're doing stress test what with different cap rates, exit cap rates in our underwriting, and also with different interest rates. And we're also purchasing rate caps.
Ah,
Sometimes rate caps are worth it, sometimes they are not. But
right.
in this market, we think it is worth
Yeah.
purchasing a rate cap. And uh, sometimes in Arizona or in Florida, the rent growth, the proposed rent growth or the projected rent growth is in double digits.
Yes.
And that's not,
Yeah.
it's totally possible, it's happened.
Yeah.
But that's not what we underwrite. We
That's what
underwrite to
brokers would tell you, right? So
right.
can you explain us what is a rate cap? Because a lot of my listeners may not know. No.
Oh yes, so it's just like insurance against rising interest rates. So we purchase a rate cap, let's say if it is at 4.75 today, and we purchase a rate cap, and if the interest rates go up to a certain level, let's say 50 basis points, and if we purchase a rate cap for that particular level, and if it hits that 5.25, 50 basis points from 4.75 is 5.25%.
Right.
And we are covered. If it goes any over, the rate cap takes over and they pay the extra difference
I see.
between what it is and what the rate cap was. So
And
that's
so you buy it for each property, right? Or can you buy it even before you have a deal in place?
we always bought it after.
Okay.
Yeah, so I do not know if you can buy it before, but we have to close on the property, and then we've always bought it after. So I'm sorry, I don't know if you can buy it preemptively.
Right. I don't think so. But so the last question before we take a break, what's your goal for 2022?
My goal for 2022 is to do at least one good syndication per quarter. And I have multiple, um, you know, goals for different aspects of my life. So business-wise, that's the goal. Vacations-wise, at least 4 weeks of vacation, and I have like completely different. At least read 6 to 8 books. That one is easy for me to hit because I already do that. So and help at least 100 families this year educate financial literacy.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Let's take a quick break. And after the break, we'll go to the same questions I ask every guest.
You're listening to the Wealth Matters Podcast. The Wealth Matters Podcast. For more info about what we do, check us out at wealthmatters.com. It's wealth, WEALTH, matters, MATRS.com. wellthmatters.com.
Welcome back to Wealth Matters Podcast. Deepa shared a lot of golden nuggets. I highly recommend if you are investing as LP, I highly recommend you go through this episode once or twice. So Deepa, thank you for sharing all those golden nuggets. Are you ready for fire round?
Oh my goodness. Yes, as ready as I can be.
Would you be changing any business or investment strategy after this pandemic is over? And I hope it's almost over.
Yes, I think it's almost over. So we are being super conservative. And I guess the answer is no. We always underwrite conservatively and want to stick to the same rules. And we'll look into the jobs, or I have to say the employers, more keenly so that it's not single point of failure.
Awesome. I always ask this question, favorite real estate or finance or, business book, but I think you can share one from each of your categories.
Okay, no, okay, thank you so much. So the best business book, I know even though this is not a business book, it is 4 Hour Work Week.
Oh,
It
yes.
kind of got me started thinking that, oh, it's possible
Yep.
to have a
Tim
4 Hour work
Ferriss.
week.
You can't go
Yes,
wrong.
yes. And real estate book, even though it's not quite real estate book, I think Rich Dad Poor Dad is
Yes.
a really good book. And personal development wise, Barking Up the Wrong Tree by
That's a
Eric
great
Barter.
book.
So I've had to read it 3 times to catch everything he was saying.
Yes.
So that, and for parenting wise, positive parenting really,
Positive
really
parenting.
helped
Okay.
me. So
Okay.
yeah.
No, thank you for sharing all those books. Any tool or website you recommend or you cannot live without? Maybe it's your underwriting, maybe project management or, networking.
Right. So Scribd is what I use to listen to my books. And
Okay.
it's SCRIBD,
Mm-hmm.
scribd.com. And that's what I use. I cannot live without it because I have to have books.
Okay,
So
so you listen to books
yes.
most
Oh
of the
my
time.
goodness. Yes.
You don't read.
No. So I
Okay,
used to, and I have a 5-year-old now. And anytime
I
I open
see.
a book or he sees a book, it becomes a
I
toy immediately.
see. I
So
see. So
yeah.
I'm going the other way. I used to listen to books on Audible. I used to read books on Kindle, and the pandemic happened. I don't go at all anywhere pretty much. So I started enjoying physical book. So I'm ordering
Oh.
all the copies of physical book now. I have a huge collection now. Same books I've owned on Audible or Kindle.
That is amazing. My kid, I think when my kid is a little bit older, I get to do that too.
No, I know it's difficult. Any advice for beginner investors?
Um, Read, absorb as much as you can, learn, or actually learn. It's not even about read. Learn and absorb as much information as you can. And a very good way to get started is by helping. Find somebody that you really like and figure out what their pain points are. You could just ask them, hey, how can I help you? I really want to help you. How can I help you? And help them. That's your way of getting in with people. So
Yeah, that's awesome. How do you give back?
great question. Thank you. So I'm very passionate about engineering. Engineering has made this possible, and that has made me possible to go to an LP straight, not going to the traditional route.
Right.
So I am a standards committee member on American Plywood Association, and we are the gatekeepers, or we are the keepers for national and international standards for a few
Okay.
specifications. And I also am a board member for American Society of Civil Engineers, Tacoma Olympia chapter. And my favorite part of giving back is I go to schools and talk to kids, middle school and high school children, and to encourage them to become engineers and outside the box thinkers. And they ask the darnest questions. One kid
Yes.
asked me, how much do you make? And I said, I'm
Yes.
going to loosely, I'm going to loosely tell you, if you pass the PE, which is a really tough exam,
Yes.
and work in the industry for a few years, you can make 100,000. And his eyes light up and he goes, 100,000 a day? And I go, hold your horses, it's $100,000 a year. So
Yeah. No, I know even my kids ask me, oh, you make 100,000 a day. I'm like, no, I wish.
Yes. So
And they're like,
I
per month? I'm like, yeah, I wish again.
but going back to schools and talking to children, I also talk at different colleges to keep engineers in college or get additional engineers into Tacoma Community College, for example. So for the most part, I'm volunteering my time to the causes that I really admire.
No, thank you for doing that. That's great. How can my listeners reach out to you?
Oh, so LinkedIn is the best way to get a hold of me. My full name is Deepareddy Akula. And you could also go to my website. It's Vinside Capital, VINSIDE capital.com.
Got it. Thank you, Deepa. I had fun. I had a blast, actually. This was good.
Thank you. No, the questions are amazing. Thank you for having me on. Again, I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening to the Wealth Matters podcast. If you enjoyed it, please leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes so others can enjoy the show too. Have a great week and happy investing!